That's the doorbell at Jimmy's house. Now, when you come to my house, my doorbell sounds like this.
Okay, it's up on the Spreaker page.
Hey, you're listening to the People's Weekly on People's Radio United. Today I'm here with Glenn, Steve, and Gail. How are you guys doing?
Doing good, man.
Adequate.
I'm still here.
Cool. So does anyone have anything they want to go over before we get started? Something upcoming that you're doing or something people need to know about?
No, we can carry on. I'm good.
Right. Same as always.
Cool.
Yeah, I got nothing, so.
We're not nuked yet, so.
Yeah, our apologies. We're starting over an hour late because the computer just decided to start a automatic update I had no control over. It's like 30 minutes before the show, and it's just got done a few minutes ago, so our apologies about this. So I guess our first thing we were going to talk about was Kim Jong-un and Trump and this whole North Korea will World War III start kind of thing.
Well, the first question I wonder is, what are the American public not supposed to be paying attention to as this goes on?
That's what I'm wondering, too.
So what you're saying is this is all a scheme to make us not ever have to see that Fox News anchor's dick pic?
Ooh, I don't think Hannity is the same level for this game that's going on now. Skinny repeal failed. What else is going on? Is it this big voter suppression? What exactly are they trying to hide? I mean, we're starting to see the quotes that say every president in their first 6 months has gotten at least one major legislative victory, except Trump. So I'm just wondering what kind of bombshell they're trying to force through Congress while this dick waving with North Korea goes on.
Do you think it's really intentional? Not just because he's a little bit egotistical? I'm just going by what other people say. I think you have something there, maybe.
Well, with him, you never can really tell. I mean, he has certainly in the past, done stuff to take our eyes off something else. So the whole sleight of hand, diversion thing, like he's done that. But he's also just, said stupid shit and picked fights because he loves to argue with people and he loves confrontations. And, I mean, I said from day one, I'm pretty sure that, nuclear weapons are a toy as far as this guy's concerned, so who the hell knows with him? I definitely think we should all be, looking around and looking for something that he might be distracting from.
Yeah, there also, there was a poll done not that long ago where 51% of Republicans said that they would be willing to suspend the 2020 elections if there was a good reason that Trump had for it.
I was going to bring that up. I even have the article up already for that.
Weren't these the same people who were crying that Barack Obama was going to suspend the 2016 election and declare martial law, and that was like so horrible, and now they're okay because it's a rich white billionaire who might be doing it? It's kind of hypocritical, don't you think?
Well, no, Barack Obama was black.
No, that couldn't have had anything to do with it.
I haven't slept last night, hence all the sarcasm. I'm just...
Oh, come on. Republicans love black people when they're doing yard work for them.
Exactly.
Well, I think the issue is the American public for what's happening with this North Korea situation is only hearing what Trump has to say, what the White House has to say, what the Secretary of Defense has to say. The American public's not hearing the reaction of other governments around the world. And nobody's impressed with this bullshit at all. Japan today has come out and seen this as the first opportunity to test their new constitutional military limits. So Japan is now saying they can shoot down outgoing ICBMs from North Korea. This seems to be news to everybody, but they insist they are. So they want to get involved. China has had a lot of comments come out through their semi-official channels in the media that, they've pretty much laid out the red lines. And they've said flat out that a regime change is not going to be tolerated in North Korea. Simple as that. They didn't elaborate on conditions or anything else. They just said, if the intention of the United States is to remove Kim Jong-un, and there's no plan after that, this is like Saddam or Gaddafi again. It's like, no, it's not going to happen. So exactly. Where's that news in the U.S. media?
Yeah, I never heard nothing about it.
Nope, all I've seen was that China warns North Korea that they're on their own.
Well, that's being a little misrepresented, and we're talking China, so that's like over 24 hours old. So it doesn't apply anymore.
Yeah, but a lot of people are really worried because these two people are really unstable and they're kind of cut from the same cloth mentally, I think. One has a lot more control over his people and is looked at as a god, where the other one is looked at as like a sick racist joke that hurts everybody except one group of people. But it's still just a battle of egos, I think, in the end with these two.
Oh, absolutely. But I mean, I've seen it out of a few places in the U.S., and I think it's pretty obvious that anybody who's trying to say that North Korea will do a first strike is absolutely insane. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. There's no way in the world that North Korea is going to do first strike, because that basically green lights their annihilation.
Yeah, but what if we do some kind of little shiesty maneuver or a show of strength or whatever they call it militarily? That could set them off easily.
Well, I mean, the flyover of the B-1B bombers already drew quite a harsh statement from China. And now Russia's in the game. Now Russia has their airborne early warning aircraft flying around in Kamchatka. So, Trump's really not helping anybody at all, including himself, because it's fine to push around the crazy little North Korea, but when you start flying nuclear-capable bombers 50 miles from our border, okay, you have our attention,
Yeah. I don't know. I just think it could turn into nothing and fizzle out. Hopefully that's what happens. But there's however so slight a potential it could escalate to something so major that it's going to be horrible. Maybe not even nukes, but maybe a lot of attacks, like almost another world war.
Well, that is the thing. You have two guys who love to escalate things, and escalation is kind of their thing. And I think they're in both Kim Jong-un and Donald Trump, you also have a lot of arrogance. Surely I can take it further than he can. He won't go there. So that does definitely make the whole thing a wild card.
Like the two guys talking crap in the parking lot, not really wanting to hit each other, but they don't want to back down either. It's kind of what it's
I,
like.
s- I see it more as two toddlers not wanting to back down. That's just me, though.
I wouldn't put two toddlers in a parking lot. It's dangerous.
I didn't say they were in a parking lot, just that they were somewhere.
Okay, they didn't replace my
We'll go
two
with the
guys.
daycare.
Okay.
Yeah. A playpen.
Playpen will work.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, I guess none of us know what's gonna happen. But yeah, like I said, it could go either way, and the odds are it will fizzle out. I think, but with the kind of crazy we're dealing with these world leaders, and then everybody else has to take a side, like Glenn said. It's not gonna be pretty if it does jump off. Not at all.
Well, there was a quote an hour ago. Not even an hour ago. Shit. Like 10 minutes ago, I got the breaking news. I don't watch him speak. Where 45 said that if he utters one threat in form of overt threat... Oh my god, he can't fucking talk. I'm sorry, let me try that again. If he utters one threat in form of overt threat, which, by the way, he's been uttering for years, or if he does anything with Guam or American territory or ally, he will truly regret it, and he will regret it fast. And then told Kim Jong-un he will not get away with it. That's the most recent quote.
And that means absolutely nothing because, like I said, there's no way North Korea is going to do a first strike. So that means nothing. That's just him doing his peacock routine.
Sheer hyperbole.
You know?
Yeah. I hope so. I mean, it sucks either way because if it does fizzle out and it does turn out to be nothing, what Glenn said earlier is a possibility that it could have been to cover up something that they're doing really, really bad to us through legislature.
They're not doing anything in legislation. Congress is on recess.
Can he just sign an executive order?
Oh, he can. I was going with Congress.
Oh, I was going with the workaround he has.
I mean, the executive order will only affect certain populations, like the federal contractors, and an executive order doesn't go towards everybody in the states. A lot of people don't understand that.
I think it's also important that Congress did make sure they passed a special motion that Trump could not do appointments during the recess. I can't remember any time in recent history.
No, this is the only time it's ever happened, and that was last week they did it.
So what's that tell you?
Well, I mean, Trump's been going at McConnell all week anyway, so, burn more bridges.
Man, hopefully both parties will implode.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Wow. Go ahead.
Well, what I'm starting to see now as well is, did anybody else notice that within a 24-hour period, it suddenly became accepted fact that North Korea can now miniaturize a nuclear payload for an ICBM? That just came up out of nowhere. There's been no...
It was discussed 3 years ago. The quote-unquote breaking news from 2 days ago that everybody just took. But I saw a lot of people questioning it more than just accepting it. And I mean, like, in the media.
That's good.
Wasn't that a leak from an undisclosed source that went straight to Fox News?
Yes, that Trump also liked and then retweeted those leaks.
Why aren't they hunting those leakers down instead of retweeting them?
No, because, Fox News leaks, and it's the same that we've always seen with leaks. I think it's covered very well in the film War on Whistleblowers, that, leaks are controlled, quote-unquote controlled leaks are ignored, but anything that harms their interest or their viewpoint is what goes after. It's nothing new.
I'm just saying they're publicly screaming about leakers. Leaks are leaks. Doesn't matter whose side it's on. What if that person turns on you and leaks the wrong thing to Fox News or whoever else?
Well, it was probably, Trump himself.
I know, but I'm saying that he has to look at it from
It's
the way
the
we
hypocrisy.
look at it.
Oh, it's there. We've seen it in every administration. Some leaks are accepted and seen as okay. Others are gone after harshly.
Well, I mean, I'm looking at in China, just quickly for people who don't get it. The way the Chinese government works, at the top of the food chain is their news agency, Xinhua, which you can compare to TASS or Pravda, not TASS actually, in the old Soviet Union. Then they have their official party paper, which is like Pravda was. And then the next level is a newspaper called Global Times. And that's kind of the Chinese government viewpoint for the rest of the world. And they've made it pretty clear. And I think if this got reported on mainstream U.S. media, there would be a severe change of attitude. And what it says is, the real danger is that such a reckless game may lead to miscalculations and a strategic war. In the near future, it would be highly sensitive if U.S. B-1B bombers fly over the Korean Peninsula, or North Korea launches missiles in the direction of Guam. Both sides would upgrade their alert to the highest level. The uncertainty in the Korean Peninsula is growing. Beijing is not able to persuade Washington or Pyongyang to back down at this time. It needs to make clear its stance to all sides and make them understand that when their actions jeopardize China's interests, China will respond with a firm hand. China should also make clear that if North Korea launches missiles that threaten U.S. soil first, and the U.S. retaliates, China will stay neutral. If the U.S. and South Korea carry out strikes and try to overthrow the North Korean regime and change the political pattern of the Korean Peninsula, China will prevent them from doing so. So, I mean, that's pretty clear. If Un attacks you, kick his ass. If you hit him first, we're stepping in. So, I mean, if that was being played on Fox, I think we may have a little different discussion happening right now.
Yeah, exactly. But that's like a totally logical stance to take. Whoever's the aggressor, we're going to go against, basically. Or, you know, but you have enough power to take the aggressor down if it's him, so we don't even need to step in.
Well, I just think it's interesting that, you know, I mean, for the way the Chinese media works, this is pretty cut and dried. This is very complete information for them. Usually they have stuff like, it will require further action. It will require a recontemplation of our relationship. Stuff like that. This is right to, if you invade them, if you attack them, we're going to step in. This is pretty far for the People's Republic of China to go publicly. So things are getting heated up.
Yeah. The whole situation is crazy. I don't know. Does anyone else have any thoughts on this?
Not really, because it's just too early to tell what's going on, you know. I'm just going to keep looking for anything that this might be intended to distract us from and, you know, hope for the best while this goes on. I mean, it's 50-50 whether we're going to have nuclear war within a year, I think. You know, so, and there's just no way to tell at this point which it's going to be.
That's a coin flip, 50-50.
It really is at this point, you know, and it can only be a coin toss because when you have two people as mentally unstable as Kim Jong-un and Donald Trump going head to head, that's the only thing you can count on is chaos and chance, you know, because it's just going to unfold the way it unfolds. And, I mean, one of them might get up one morning and look up in the sky and, again, see something they don't like and blame the other, and there you go. I mean, that's how mentally unstable these people are. So who knows? You can't predict what they're going to do.
Does anyone know if I've heard both sides of this, so I'm not sure the actual facts on it. Is Trump allowed to bomb some or start a nuclear war without Congress?
I mean, not technically, but we haven't actually gone to Congress to start a war since 1941.
Well, I know they go around it, but I'm saying to drop a nuclear bomb.
No, not technically. Well, considering, I mean, yes, he can drop a nuclear bomb without Congress, but considering that dropping a nuclear bomb starts a war, then that's unconstitutional. But every war we've been in since 41 has been that way.
But Trump could say, who knew dropping a nuke on them would start a war? Yeah. I mean,
who
knew healthcare was so complicated? Who knew Frederick Douglass wasn't a big presence on Twitter? Who knew all these things?
It doesn't matter anyway. What happened to Bush? Nothing. What happened during Vietnam? Nothing.
Yeah, you're right about that. I mean,
there's no accountability in that.
Yep.
Yeah, it's funny how those strict constitutionalists don't have a lot to say about that.
Because he's their guy and they're cult members or team fans or something.
The only constitutionalists I've ever met have never read the Constitution.
No shit. Yeah. I think it's also...
my freedom of speech on Twitter, and then you're like, that's not what freedom of speech is, you fucking idiot. So, sorry.
I think it's also important what Gal posted in our Skype chat, and I've also seen it from the sources I look at, Night Watch, stuff like that. U.S. ships are doing what they're calling freedom of navigation exercises inside waters that China deems to be theirs.
Yeah, don't fuck with the South China Sea, but we keep doing it.
So that's 3 times in recent memory, and the Chinese Navy has reacted, exactly the way they should. But yet the Americans keep doing it, but the American public ain't hearing about it. So, are we looking for another Gulf of Tonkin episode? I certainly hope not. But who knows? I mean, I think this is part of the strategy as well when you're dealing with a peer opposition like China. It's you keep poking them all along that, 2,500-mile coastline? Just, hey, we're over here now. Hey, we're over here. We're going to fly over this. Hey, how's it going?
Well, what comes to mind as I'm looking at this, what went on with the freedom of navigation exercises is it brings to mind the fact that, World War II, yes, the Japanese started it, but we provoked them into starting it. Like, yes. We basically put them to the point where they either had to roll over for us or they had to attack us. And so, I mean, we really started that war because the intention was to provoke Japan to attack us. And now I'm starting to wonder, you've got all this posturing in North Korea, and now this going on with China, are we going back to that again? Provoke somebody into starting a war with us so that we can say they're the aggressor, but we can have a war?
It would certainly fit with the ideology of the current White House, I believe, considering the people who are still working there.
Yeah. It's very obvious to me that they want a war with somebody. I mean, that much is so obviously clear. They want a war with somebody. I mean, I don't think I've seen an administration that just thrives off conflict, even domestic conflict as much as this one. You know, so, and they may be looking at it like, oh wow, you know, America is like really divided. We can't get America behind us. What if we had a war? Maybe that's what's going on.
That's what we've seen with every GOP president since
Eisenhower.
Shit, I was going to say you can go back pretty far. I mean, you've got Nixon in Vietnam, you've got Bush 1 and Desert Storm, you've got Bush 2 and Iraq and Afghanistan, so it wouldn't be out of the ordinary.
Does anyone think they're going to reinstate the draft again eventually if this turns into something? That's because I tweeted that like 3 or 4 months ago.
I was just going to say, yeah, that's a big thing right now that people ignored. But they are looking into it right now. They actually... 3 months, oh my God, no, I guess it was back in March or April, an executive order was written, not an executive order, a commission was made in order to research reinstituting the draft, and it is something that McCain has been after for decades. It's on another, I'll have to find it for you guys, I'm going to go back a long way for it, but I did a lot of research on it because it did terrify me when I first saw it and nobody was really talking about it. But it is being discussed in Congress. It is being discussed in the White House. And it has been since pretty much the beginning of this administration.
Get ready, Glenn. People are going to be coming that way.
Yeah,
they already are.
No, that's what I was going to say. Please don't do that because we can't handle another 20,000 people a month. And this time they're going to be U.S. citizens.
You're already getting that. There's a refugee camp that was being built this week for U.S. to Canada. Let me find that story for you.
But those are not. Those aren't U.S. citizens. Those are mostly Haitians. Who are in the United States on refugee status, and they're not being processed. And now ICE is coming after them. So that's why they're going to Canada. They're trying to break the. What is it? The Third Nation Agreement? That's what's going on. Yeah. And it only makes sense for Haitians to go to Quebec. Au français.
Man. Yeah, they're trying to get rid of legal as well as illegal immigration. I think we talked about that last week, where they're, or 2 weeks ago, where they're trying to just get rich people coming from certain countries.
Yep.
Or could basically buy their way into this country without saying that they bought their way into this country.
Oh, I mean, that's been the way shit really works in Canada for 35 years.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. Because, I mean, even with this all this stink that the right-wing people in Canada made about the Syrians that were brought in, there were a lot of Christian Syrian businessmen and their families who were basically backdoored, you know? I mean, Canada's always been that way. If you're from, say, the Middle East or India or Pakistan or Thailand or Malaysia or the People's Republic of China, if you fill out paperwork and say this, I'm bringing this amount of assets with me, it's like, aren't you here yet? We're waiting. Oh yeah, it's always been that way here. Because money is the ultimate race, according to them. They don't care what you look like. If you're rich, well, yeah, you'll fit in. Come on in.
Yeah, they should replace the Statue of Liberty's torch with like a dollar sign or like a cup for money or something.
A barcode scanner.
There you go. Boop, boop. Oh man, since we got a shorter show today, do you just want to move on to the next thing, or you got more to say on this?
No, go ahead.
Let's move on.
The terror attack in the mosque that happened, that no one's calling a terror attack. In fact, Gorka went on the news and was saying, the left always attacks itself, and
yeah,
we have to wait
he said
for
we have to
all
wait to see if it was liberals. That was his exact quote.
Now imagine
Really?
if that was a synagogue or a church or something. You think they'd
Yep.
be like, nah, these guys attacked themselves. We're not going to comment on this.
They did that actually with the Jewish cemeteries that were attacked, over 100 of them in January and February, and still being attacked regularly. They still blame it on Jewish people.
Really? I thought they were
Yeah, they
investigating
actually-
those.
Some of them, I'm not, well, when I say they, I mean that's what, when the administration was ever asked about it, or anybody within the media, I shouldn't say the media, but the administration generally, and alt-right, of course, then went along with it, floating that wonderful ideology that it was Jewish individuals who were doing it. And
You know
Yeah.
what? They were probably right. It was probably Milo kind of people. He's a Jewish individual that would probably bash a Jewish cemetery.
No, I think they're referring to like hardline elements of the JDL or stuff like that. I mean,
oh no,
if
they
you
were
wa-
blaming it on liberals overall, that they do it to cause it to make it look as though there's more anti-Semitism in the States than there is, even though that's not true. But that was the ideology they were going with, which is the exact same we're seeing right now with the mosque.
Oh, because their people would be the ones doing it.
Yes.
Oh.
That's,
Okay.
That's,
I don't know,
that's-
because
yeah.
cause with Kushner and all that, I kind of think, and Milo and all that, I think that they're cool with Jewish cats now.
No,
but
they're
maybe- yeah.
incredibly anti-Semitic, including Kushner.
They're just like
It's-
the tokens that, like the black Nazis and Mexican
Yes.
Nazis, and I get it. Okay, I'm slow today. Sorry, guys.
No problem. I'm slow every day this week, so I understand.
Yeah, that does kind of remind me of how Hitler said it was the communists that were doing everything, while it was the brown shirts.
Yup.
So be it. I do find it interesting though that Minnesota State people, because they are there on the ground, they're going to hear it every day. They have made statements that amount to calling it terror, but nothing
Yeah.
federally.
Yeah, Mark Dayton, the governor of Minnesota, even called it a terrorist attack.
Yep.
Which it is. I'm sorry, but if you throw a bomb into a building that has people, that is a terrorist attack. I don't care who the people are in the building. I don't
Yep.
care who threw the bomb. It does not matter. If that happened, it was a terrorist attack. For
Yeah, I mean-
fuck's sake, why is this so difficult?
You are absolutely correct, but I want to state though that the reason you're not going to see anybody in the no matter what they prove, no matter what, it will not be called terrorism. We've seen that throughout, previous administrations as well, but considering that the Trump administration froze all of the funds to any groups that were fighting white supremacy. Yeah, see, I can't talk. I told you. And right-wing terror. All those groups have been defunded, so they're not even considered. And it was as early February when it was taken off the terrorist list. So they will not legally be considered terrorism, even if we all can say they are. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, they won't
It's gonna be
officially
pretty
call
good
those groups
definition.
terrorists or any of their
Mhm.
actions. They'll call it hate crimes or something.
Right, because in this administration, terrorism isn't determined by the action committed, it's determined by who did it.
It was the same in the last administration
Yeah.
and the one before that as well, though. So, in all fairness, it's just the way.
Oh
it
yeah,
is.
they
not
wouldn't
like
even
that.
they wouldn't even call Timothy McVeigh a terrorist until he was convicted.
Yep.
So yeah, this is absolutely nothing new. We would have seen this exact same silence from the last administration and the one before that.
When
We
you
have
see-
seen it.
When you look at the right-wing websites right now, either they're commending it usually, or the other thing they're saying is it was a gas line and they're calling it terrorism. So it's just, they misinformation. They don't want people to know that most likely one of the people that believes just like them, that's just like their friends and the people they hang out with, bombed a mosque. He's
Well,
a
it's like
terrorist.
the was it in Montreal where the alt-right dude walked in and shot up a mosque? And
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trump at first said we had to get Islamic terrorism under control as his response to it.
Yep.
I mean, we see it time and time again, and although it is worse, or it feels worse, or actually even just looking at the data, it is worse underneath this administration. It's no different than the way we've seen it dealt with in previous administrations. The one thing I will say is, at least in previous administrations, when it weren't being talked about, even if they were silent, they were still investigating it. It's not being federally investigated any longer. White supremacist groups, right-wing terror groups, which commit most of the terrorism in the country.
You mentioned where these alt-right sites are saying it was a gas line explosion. And this is important because this highlights like what I feel has made the alt-right so effective at what they do and getting their message out there and stuff is they find a truth, and then they take that truth and they build off of it so that if you go looking into it, you will find this truth, okay? Because there is a truth that at the very first, the investigators were zeroing in on a contractor who had been working on a gas meter and moved a gas meter, which, if that had been happening and then there was an explosion, that's the logical place to start, So that was the original theory. But as they looked further into it, they found the bomb, I mean, there's like no question now. But the alt-right, they do this thing where they take, and they do it with ideas too. They'll take a good idea and then they'll distort it into something all fucked up, So, I advise people who, are listening and on the fence about things, and when you look at these alt-right sites, realize that they might say something and then you might hear from another source, oh yeah, that's, which was an alt-right, yeah, that's what it was. What they did is they found that thing and then they built it into their fictional narrative, and it's a really good tactic that they do, and it's how they got where they are with all the influence they have, in my opinion.
But it's easy to debunk with just a search.
People are too lazy. They want to be told what to think.
And even if they search it, they still go, that's not real, that's fake news. There's no more logic in conversations. Fuck. Yesterday, that's going to be a completely different topic, but it pissed me off. But yesterday, one of the memos from, I do believe, the National Security Council came out calling media and academics enemies. I mean, we're officially the enemies now. And it's like, there's a reason my AVI is a fucking girl with her mouth chained shut.
Yeah, I remember
so many people getting fucking fired in the last 3 months that are professors. It's absolutely ridiculous of what we aren't even allowed to say anymore.
I've read history, and these kind of things have happened before, where the academia and scientists are considered enemies. It happened with Hitler. It happened with Mussolini. It happened with Stalin.
It happened last year with Turkey. Yes, and it happened last year with Turkey. They're still in jail.
And they're still arresting more in Turkey right now.
Regularly, journalists and academics.
And it happened for 9 years in Canada under Stephen Harper.
See?
It happens in Russia as well.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
what does it do? The whole point is to make us scared not to speak out. And I'm seeing it happen, and it's a personal issue that I'm very angry at right now.
See, this
is close to home for you.
This is another one of the things that rightfully causes a lot of provocation in the U.S., but up here in Canada, it's like, yeah, seen that. I mean, it just doesn't, we've already been through it, and we had all the same kind of outrage that Americans are now having, but you guys didn't pay any attention to us. So
I would say there's not a lot of outrage. Most people don't care. And even when it is brought up, it's not something that's discussed hardly anywhere. It's not talked about in the media. I might see The only time I even see it discussed on Twitter is between those that are in academia or who are the one I do see it when journalists are attacked. I do see that, but they have access to
Platform.
Yeah, exactly. There's a big difference between that and. I can't walk into my classroom and say, well, this is how I was attacked yesterday. Instead, I have to wait to be put on the fucking right wing. What is it called? The professor watch list they've had since January. Yeah. And check it. I always check it to see if I'm there yet. And like, fuck, why am I not there yet?
But these constitutionalist patriots, the ones with the guns and the American flags and the Bible.
You mean the 59% of Republicans who think that higher education is a bad thing?
Well, that's one thing, but that's true. But they also hate journalists as well, and they're connected because.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I saw it was a shirt at a Trump rally that said "Noose." I think it said "Noose check, tree check, journalist check" or something.
Yeah, I saw that.
Like, what the hell?
They're not, they just use the term patriotism. It's not actual patriotism. It's right-wing fundamentalists. Fundamentalism would be the word. And it has absolutely nothing to do with the Constitution.
There's
Nothing.
so few of them, and they're mixed in all over the place, and they're just so loud. I mean, these people have like 30, 40 Twitter accounts with 20, 10, 19 followers each, And
they have a subreddit on Reddit. Too.
Yeah, and they just go on and on and on.
The shit that they dox people, they physically threaten people. I've been on Reddit a long time, and it's amazing to see how the admins won't touch them. They will not touch them. They'll ban. I just saw another subreddit banned before I came on the radio, but it's not that one, and they do nothing but break the rules. But yet they won't be touched by the admins.
Well, my guess is they probably have a lot of traffic going through there, and they're responsible for a lot of activity on Reddit. So Reddit
they're
doesn't
fearful of what will happen, though. I mean, they've come out and discussed it.
Have they?
Oh yeah, it's a very hot topic for the last, I guess, 12 months or so. Especially because of the amount of illegal activity that goes on that subreddit.
Or.
It's the fearfulness of how the alt-right will attack Reddit.
Or that's a dodge, and they are the admins.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I would say that, but the admins are pretty well known. And they're not. They don't have anonymous names. Alexis Allen, I can't say his last name, who's engaged to Serena Williams. They're pretty well-known people.
It doesn't mean that some of them don't have those values. Not everybody walks out with Nazi symbols on them,
Oh, I know.
Or
there's people that work with black and Mexican and Arab people and Indians and everything else and Native Americans, every kind of person, Asian people, and they smile and they talk to them and whatever. But when they go home, they're the most racist, evil. You know what I mean? These people have two faces, a lot of them.
Or it's similar to people having a problem with Twitter, and they tweet to Jack, like Jack is in control or something. They hired him back because he's the poster boy. He's the one who's supposed to take all the heat for 5% FBI ownership, for 50% Saudi Arabian ownership. And people just... It's Jack's fault. Wake the fuck up. So maybe it's kind of along those lines. These famous people are advertised as the admins, but they're not.
That's another option. Jeez.
This kind of goes right into, I think, one of the other topics you wanted to talk about, which is the Unite the Right thing tomorrow.
Oh yeah, that.
I think you explained it best by calling it the KKK interbred reunion or something.
The interbreeding family reunion.
No, I said it's the KKK Inbred Fest 2017.
I was close.
Go.
I was close. I knew
There
inbred,
you go.
interbred, same thing. I knew it was in there.
Yep. Yeah.
Did you see this? I can't remember his name. One of those Nazis on the Daily Stormer was telling these guys all how to dress. And they have to be sexy when they come, and he's telling them to wear tight clothes, and yeah, just crazy, like style advice for Nazis, and
They called the Virginia National Guard for those bitches. They're on standby for tomorrow. I just saw an hour ago.
They'll be right there protecting them. Yeah, that's what they do.
I won't go with defending them. They didn't want it there in the first place. But I think it's more because they're more fearful of the counter protesters. That's what I think it's for. So I wouldn't say to defend them, but I also won't say not to defend them.
I've never been to a Klan or Nazi rally where the police were not facing us with their backs toward them. Never, not once, no matter what they did.
Yep.
Have you ever been to one that didn't have a permit?
I don't know.
This one has. This one has a. That changes everything, though. That's why I ask.
Well, I know we were at one without a permit in front of their house during a party, and the police didn't seem to care. They still protected them.
Yeah, I absolutely know that about the police, believe me. But if there's a permit involved, then they have to, quote unquote, protect. We know they're going to do it anyway.
No, they don't have to, quote unquote, protect because they're union. They can go on strike. They could take a day off. They could say, we're not going to do this as a united front.
Okay, I completely agree with you there, by the way. I'm not saying that's not true. I was just going with the actual, law.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that everyone
you're
knows
absolutely
they
right
don't
there.
have to do anything. They're people. They have a choice. It's a job.
I 100% agree with you.
I wouldn't do any job that tells me I have to protect the life of a Nazi. I would say, go to hell. That's the day I'm sick. Sorry.
ACLU defending Milo and somebody else today.
The ACLU has defended the KKK in the past.
Yeah, of course.
Well, that's what happens when you apply laws equally.
Well, I was just noticing that because I was, while you guys were talking about this, I was looking this up online, and I'm noticing a lot of pictures of Nazis and Klan, and I notice they tend to be on the short side. Have you noticed this? They tend to be like smaller people. You know where I'm going with this, don't you?
Yes.
It is a fact that smaller adult size is one of the results of inbreeding. I'm just saying. I'm not saying. I'm just saying.
But you're racist against small people because of your height. You're like 7 feet tall, dude.
Well, okay. To be fair, yes. I'm still upset about the fact that the urinals aren't where they're supposed to be when I go into the bathroom, and I'm not going to get over that. I don't think that's racism. I think that's a legitimate gripe. Crickets.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was reading the statement from Governor Terry McAuliffe in Virginia.
Hang on, I'm trying to get this article up right near the neo-Nazi to his troll army. We have to be sexy. It's loading right now.
He sounds like he's more from the Hermann Goering wing of the Nazi party then.
Yeah, it's talking about this is all for this rally right here. I'm looking, hang on. I'm looking for some quotes in this article. On their big day out, he begged supporters to look appealing and sexy and hip and dangerous.
But how do you do that with fingers?
The worst look ever is baggy t-shirt. Wear fitted t-shirts where the sleeve goes to the middle of your bicep. It should not hang lower than the base of your member.
What?
This is his advice to the Nazis showing up. Here it is. Jeans should be also fitted, not tight, just fitted. In the photo, I guess he had a photo here. I don't see it though. In the photo, those are actually shorts. I would not wear pants that loose fitting. And that's another thing. Don't ever wear shorts. Serious men in serious situations are not wearing shorts. Americans have an obsession with baggy stuff, and it always looks bad. No matter what, it looks bad, even if everyone else is doing it. Oh, wait. Here's more. Fat people should be allowed. Wait. I'm sorry. Hang on.
No. Oh, no.
Fat people should be allowed to join groups and be involved in rallies, but we need to create a culture where we don't necessarily shame people, but do look at them. I'm sorry. He's talking about not shaming people. This is a Nazi talking about not shaming people. But do look at them to get it together. We should help people get it together. I'm working on my biggest diet guide ever, which I think will help the overweight and skinny alike, even if they have minimal time for exercise. Also, he's writing a diet book he wants to sell to fat Nazis. Surely a lot of our target demographic is going to be out of shape, which is why we need a culture of fitness. People should go to the gym together, help each other with the diet. Do not look scraggly. I won't tell you how to cut your hair. I do not believe men's hair looks better short. But I do believe men's hair looks better short, and beards look better well trimmed.
Well,
so, yeah.
You know why? You know why so many of them are out of shape, right?
Yeah.
Because other symptoms of inbreeding are loss of immune function and increased cardiovascular risks, which means that exercise can be detrimental. Not saying, just saying.
Here's the next quote. I don't understand this, though. Maybe one of you guys. It says, we must have Chad or CHAD nationalism. That is what will make you guys want to join us. That is what will make the girls want to be our groupies. That will make us look like bad boys and heroes. That is what we are going for here. What is Chad nationalism? Anyone ever heard of that?
Urban Dictionary says, and I'm going to go with Urban Dictionary before anything else. Type of romantic nationalism in which betas are given the chance to become an alpha via drowning slore children. The fuck is that? Commonly done in toilets. This type of patriotism is rampant among millennial betas, covfefe, and well-trained thuts. I love Urban Dictionary. So I've seen the term Chad used. I thought maybe it was a. Oh my God! No, it's got its own Wikipedia page.
You know,
it has a website. It has a website.
Chad National. Yeah, I just saw that. ChadNationalism.squarespace.com.
Yep, that's exactly what I'm looking at.
Here it is on Wikipedia. Chad is a generally derogatory slang referring to a young urban white man, typically single and in his 20s or early 30s. The term originated during the 1990s in Chicago, Illinois, and was further popularized by a satirical website dedicated to Lincoln Park Chad Society, a fictional social club based in Chicago's upscale Lincoln Park neighborhood. The female counterpart to the Chad is slang is the Trixie. A Chad is typically depicted as originating in Chicago's affluent North Shore suburbs, receiving a BMW for his 16th birthday, obtaining a law or business degree from a Big Ten university, belonging to a fraternity, and moving to Lincoln Park, marrying a Trixie, and then moving back to the northern suburbs. In recent years, the term has been applied in a positive connotation to physically fit, often right-wing young male adults, specifically in alt-right spheres. This usage originated on the message board 4chan and has spawned the term Chad nationalism. There you go. The whole Wikipedia page right there.
All right. Now, I'm willing to bet quite a bit that if you go back into the curriculum of Nazi Germany in what they would consider to be high schools with their political courses, they did have grooming courses. You know, to be a good member of the Reich, you should look like a member of the Reich.
So, Boy Scouts.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Exactly. I mean, Hitler Jugend. I mean, I can guarantee that everything about this movement can be traced back to the Nazi Party and the way they did things. There's nothing new here at all.
Okay.
Yeah, they are completely unoriginal.
I'm going to make a
Chad
suggestion.
Chad nationalism. Dude, I'm so done. What the fuck?
Wait, I got a suggestion for all our Nazi listeners and our alt-right listeners, because we have so many. I think if you guys are serious about this, you need to have makeover tents before the protest, and you guys all need to go through and get made over. Make sure it's working for you guys, you know? Have some really cool stylists there doing your hair, and get manicures, and, you know, get your pedicures, and feel good about yourself out at your Nazi protest, because that's what it's all about.
Little racist eye for the inbred guy.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah, and Charlotte, where's it gonna be? Charlottesville, right? In
I think
Virginia.
it's Charlotte. Let's see. I've got.
Hang on, I'm gonna look right.
Oh, you're right. Charlottesville, Virginia.
Yeah,
Because I have the governor's statement from this morning calling the Virginia National Guard in.
they're gonna have a bunch of sexy, stylish Nazis who just had makeovers coming in. That's gonna be, that's something I've never seen before.
In tight shirts and fitted pants. Dude, emo Nazis. What the fuck?
And most of their members will be visible because their shirts stop right above them.
You know, the thing is, though, if you go back into the graphic arts archives of official German society, all through the 30s, before the war, that's all you're going to see. You know? Everyone was the Teutonic youth. It's the same shit they're trying to sell. Exactly.
Yeah. It just sounds so funny from a group of people that hates gay people so much. This just sounds so stereotypically gay of this guy to write this article. No offense to anybody, but it's just, you know what I mean? It's like the last thing you'd expect Nazis to be saying. I want you in tight shirts, tight pants, and I want to see your members, fellas. Let's get out there and spread some racist hate.
Don't cover those members with your shirts, you know?
Like, it almost seems like somebody's trolling them with this article. It doesn't even seem real, but it is.
Where is that article from? Maybe it is somebody trolling. What is it?
It was on Daily Stormer.
Oh, God, you're right. Never mind.
But I mean, that's
Nazi
it,
leader.
though.
It's some known Nazi leader. I can't remember his name right now. I shut the article down, but he's the one that wrote it. It's not like just like but it just seems like it should be.
No, because back in the day, when there was no internet, that's exactly what you would see in Völkischer Beobachter, which was the official newspaper of the party. Because if anybody going to Daily Stormer, it's more than a passing interest in what these people are doing. So, I mean, of course, they're going to preach the gospel to them on that site, and it's going to look ridiculous to everybody else.
I guess it just looks no more ridiculous than racism in itself. That's pretty ridiculous. You're right, Glenn. I've never seen this with them before, and it's just so out of place in my mind. But like you said, it goes back to the 30s and 40s in Germany even.
Yeah.
I've seen it over and over with them specifically, especially because they tend to fall into the MRA red pill category, and that's very common talk for them.
Mm-hmm.
I know a while back, like maybe 2-3 months ago, there was a NSM rally, I think, or KKK, one of the two, and there was pictures online spreading with this racist Nazi, one of them with the KKK logo on his shirt, and he had dreadlocks. So maybe this is like a response to that, because that was like the biggest joke online for a while. I don't know if any of you guys saw it, but it was like when you're a racist and you're doing it wrong.
Nice.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Like, that's the last thing you'd think a Nazi or a KKK member would have is dreadlocks.
Yeah, that's odd, but I don't know. These people, they're just, nothing should surprise us from them, really, when you think about it. I mean, look at how convoluted and moronic these people tend to be, you know? I mean, you have, like, when you're dealing with white supremacists, you always have that one that's really smart and articulate and well-spoken, right? But then when you look at the hundreds gathered around him, they're all knuckle-dragging, inbred twats.
Who
You
tend to
know?
be just angry because they can't get laid, so they take it out on everybody.
Yeah, pretty much.
I still consider the depiction of the Nazis in the movie The Blues Brothers to be my
Yeah.
working model. That's my working model.
Exactly. The Blues Brothers. We're on a mission from God.
Like, can you imagine if that movie was released today? The protests that would be happening. I mean, I remember back when Blues Brothers came out. Was that 79? I mean, there were a couple little protests, and like the people that showed up were like basically wearing German uniforms. Like they were hardcore, and they didn't like it, and everybody just laughed at them. But
Drive
I mean,
off a
imagine,
cliff.
I've always loved you. Yeah. But, you know, imagine if that was released today in a movie, the uproar and the liberal California Hollywood propaganda that would be claimed. But, you know, 35 years ago, everybody just thought it was funny.
Well, if any big mega $1 million corporations are listening right now, if you give me a lot of money, I'll make a movie where we just drive Nazis off a cliff all day.
You should go to Sundance with that. You may get
I have
funding
no
there.
problem doing that. Like 1,000,001 Ways to Kill a Nazi. That's the name of my new film. Fund it, somebody.
Well, hope that Knappenberger didn't hear that and he's going to get a screenplay made right now.
I mean, Jeffrey Katzenberg just funded the Young Turks. He could fund a 1,000,001 Ways to Kill a Nazi movie. Think of all the sequels we could have with that. It's never ending. There's never a lack of ways you can kill a Nazi.
No,
Well,
it
you
really
can't-
isn't.
You can't do it on YouTube because they'll take it down.
Not if Jeffrey Katzenberg is behind it.
Well, that's true.
Exactly.
Did we have anything else? I thought there was one more.
Blackwater.
Ah.
Blackwater. Trump is thinking about having Betsy DeVos's brother, who's a bigwig or runs or owns Blackwater, to be able to maybe take over Iraq.
But the Pentagon already kind of came out and told them to fuck off.
Okay, well, when I wrote this, that hadn't happened.
No, I know that, and it is something we need to discuss about. It's right here, actually, because, see, I have a story up right here looking at it. The Pentagon has a message for Steve Bannon. Eric Prince has no place in any of America's wars. The Blackwater founder and brother of Betsy DeVos was the topic of conversation among the State Department, military, and CIA as a possible hire. So, yeah, the story that came out Monday morning was that Eric Prince actually went on TV and stated that they were talking about or in talks to privatize Afghanistan and to send the mercenaries there instead and to get the military out, which is ridiculous but not surprising at all. It was one of the very first things that I kind of stated was going to happen once Betsy DeVos was nominated. But the Pentagon came out and said that they are not interested in privatizing the war in Afghanistan.
Any more than they already have.
Right. Oh, absolutely. But see, by privatize, yeah, they see it's cheaper for them in the long run to keep military there instead of buying paying another firm as they did with Halliburton and Blackwater. Blackwater is now Academy, but I think that Eric Prince is trying to get it back to Blackwater again because the people last week, actually right before we went on the show, the murder convictions were overturned for one of the Blackwater mercenaries who was in jail or in prison for murdering 14 innocent Iraqi civilians. And so it's actually been in the news a lot in the last week. I've seen Blackwater more than normal. But...
Well, I mean... It's kind of like splitting hairs in certain ways because going back to the first Iraq war, Halliburton, KBR, they all got in on the logistical side of war. The logistical side of war is where they started to make all their money. And that's, Napoleon said an army moves on its stomach. So that was the first step. Then you got State Department. You've got the CIA. You've got congressional visits to war regions. Blackwater got all that a long time ago. So I think with the Secretary of Defense saying we're not going to privatize the war, he's only speaking
Oh, no, he didn't say that. I just want to say that a Pentagon official said it.
Oh, okay. Well, whatever. Still, they are the military. That's all they represent. They don't represent state or CIA or any of the other IC agencies, nothing like that. So that's pretty easy for him to say and not have much fear of anything coming out to the different. But, of course, Betsy DeVos got her position by her donations. Prince already knows a lot of people. Trump likes a smaller circle the better, because then he knows who to throw under the bus. So I don't really see a surprise. I think it's just admitting more of what's going on than it's any new step in any direction.
Yeah. You know, we could solve the North Korea crisis with Blackwater. I've seen Rambo. We just take the 10 top guys from Blackwater, give them a headband and a survival knife, drop them off in North Korea. The whole country will be free in a week.
Well, you know, Blackwater, a lot of these guys are have special forces level training. I mean, Blackwater, they are pretty good at what they do as far as, you know, providing security for when they're doing your security, you're pretty much don't have anything to worry about. But the problem is the way they go about doing that is pretty morally questionable, you know, and that's being generous to them.
Yeah. They're extrajudicial murderers is what they are.
Yeah, they can do things the troops can't do and get away with it.
Yep.
Everybody I've ever known who was in the military and had to work, and I have known a lot of people next to with Blackwater, absolutely hated them, and they talked about this like intense tension between the troops and Blackwater employees. So it's interesting. I almost said dialysis. I need to stop watching Scrubs. Analysis.
Don't Blackwater employees get paid a lot more than the troops as well?
Yes.
About 4 times as much.
So that's another issue probably to keep them, you know, angry with them.
Well, you know, Prince kind of justifies that with the whole thing that you look at a soldier's salary, right? Well, that's his salary. That's not the cost of training him and, you know, putting him through the training and everything else. And then, you know, as I mentioned before, a lot of these Blackwater operatives have, you know, training at or near special forces level, which is also more expensive. So that's how he justifies it. And I haven't looked into it. I haven't run the numbers, but I would still be willing to bet, you know, there's a lot of overcharging going on, even in spite of all that.
Well, of course there is. I mean, where did these Blackwater operatives get their training? In which military?
Tax dollars.
So, exactly. So Prince is trying to claim a value added for something he never paid for. He just wants profit from it.
He wants us to pay more
owns it.
for giving them the same training another soldier that's been there a long time gets, that we paid for as well.
This is kind of like the story where you sell your raw logs and then you pay 3 times as much to get the finished lumber back. You know, same type of deal.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of these mercenary armies myself. I mean, I just don't see how anything good is going to come out of any of it, because they're like pretty much anything else that has guns and has some authority to commit violence granted to them by somebody. You know, they start off by they start off by maybe crossing the line here in a situation where people would be like, well, yeah, but look at the situation, you know. So it slides, and next thing you know, it's like with you know police, you know. I mean, for a long time, they were, you know, doing stuff to scumbags, and a lot of people were like, well, you know, they're doing it to scumbags, so it's okay, you know. Then they started not doing it to just scumbags, and, you know, more and more, I should say, and to a point where people noticed, and people were like, well, that's not cool. Well, guess what? It had already been established that it was acceptable behavior, and now confronting that behavior is really difficult. And the same thing's going to happen with these private armies, with these mercenary armies. You know, it's just like it's not going to end well. You know, if we keep adding to military or private armies doing military functions for the United States, it's not going to end well.
Well, I think the United Kingdom already learned that about 30 years ago.
Yeah. Plus, you got to think, how long until they decide if they're using these cats everywhere else, they're going to use them against us at protests or whatever else, if they aren't already sometimes.
Well,
they did at Dapple.
Yep.
They use Blackwater?
That's what I think this is.
Yep.
It wasn't Blackwater, but it was another mercenary group.
Same kind of thing. Okay.
Yeah, I remember that, a security company. You know, I think that's really ultimately what this is working towards. Is, you know, these mercenaries who don't have as many rules of restraint placed on them are going to be what protesters have to deal with. You know, it's another thing to criminalize and silence and brutally suppress protests. That's where this is heading, and I think it's heading there by design.
Yeah, because they make these multi-million or billion-dollar contracts to do this, and then if something does go wrong, they pay out maybe $1 million, a little fraction of nothing, and they keep going as a corporation. It's different. Go ahead. Sorry.
But isn't there already an established pattern? Because you look at the Iraq War and the coin strategy, the counterinsurgency, the surge. How many of those veterans now that trained to be in the army but found themselves doing urban armored police in Baghdad or Basra or somewhere else in Iraq, they get out of the army and they come home and they become cops. And I think there's a definite connection on how big urban police forces in the U.S. have, quote unquote, evolved their engagement tactics. Where did these guys learn this? How are they so susceptible to do it? Well, I think it's from the Iraq War. So if you start putting Blackwater on tour in Afghanistan, as Afghanistan continues to slip back into Taliban control, guess where those guys are going to end up one day? On the streets of the United States.
Yeah.
Citizens.
It'll happen.
Nobody wants to talk about that.
Yeah, it's a screwed up situation all the way around. The more they keep building up this police state, eventually, if we don't stop the police state that we should have been fighting for the last 20 years, we're going to have a military state, which is even worse than the police state. And that's going to be no fun. See, the longer we wait, the worse it gets. I mean, these people... There's always going to be some new technology where, like, oh, they're powerful. But look back at all the times people are like, we can't fight them, they're too powerful. Compared to now, it's the same thing. They keep getting more powerful. Eventually you have to put your foot down and say no more. Or it's just going to keep getting more powerful. People don't get that. They think the power is just going to go away and we're going to get our power back magically one day. I don't know. But
I have friends who I have a fair amount of friends who just don't get why I'm so, hardcore anti-government, and we need to fight the government, and we need to fight the encroaching police state. These same friends, and I don't get it, these same friends will, I'll hear them from time to time going like, wow, it's like we're getting taxed for everything now, and wow, it's like, look at all these, I'm getting all these tickets, for minor infractions and stuff, and I'm like, well, yeah, I've been saying that this has been building up, and now you're starting to see it, so let's do something about it. Oh, no, you're just being, and then they go watch football.
Yep.
There's still a lot of good argument to be said for the old adage, people get the government they deserve.
Not me.
No, you know what I'm saying. The society.
Yeah, I know. I'm just...
Yeah.
That's it, though. In a capitalist society that we're stuck with, isn't that like one of the best market conditions you could hope for if you're one of the people with power?
Of course,
that basically it just tells you that people just don't have any staying power. They'll do what they're told.
Yeah.
Sad.
Wow, on that note, since we got started late.
Right.
Buzzkill Glenn comes through.
Well, Glenn, you ended it with the same thing the president ends many of his tweets with, sad.
Yes.
But yeah, we started so late today. Maybe we should wrap. If anyone have anything you wanna say before we go?
Yeah, I got nothing.
Okay. So in that
Fuck
case,
Sinclair Media. Oh, sorry.
fuck Sinclair Media. So definitely to all those who will listen to this, check out The View Up Here with Canadian Glenn on Wednesdays, and check out Top Gear Live with Gel, Top Gear, and Bad, and others on Sunday. And we'll see you guys here next week, hopefully on time. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Later.